Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Film School Show. My name is Jared, here again with Jason McCutcheon. Jason, what's up, dude?
We are, for us right now, we're recording this in November, about midway through November, which means we are, I'd say, largely out of our wedding season now.
Yep, we are in the slower season. I would say we still have a fair amount left this year. We have weddings every weekend, but
And
this
our
part of
and
the
our off
year,
season isn't as lean as it normally is.
yeah, this part of the year we can usually spread things out a little bit more, which means more weekends with the family, more doing, I don't know, kind of just like inventory of
Networking stuff.
where we are as a company and where we want to go, and we can take more risks, which is actually leading into kind of the topic that we're talking about today, which you and I had the opportunity to film a wedding this weekend down in Florida. And, I think I had said it like, you got to know when to fold them, know when to hold them. And you were like, that's a podcast episode. So explain what we're talking about today.
I said it, Jared.
No, I said you had to know when to hold them, when to fold them, and you said that's a podcast episode.
We can agree to disagree.
That's what happens. So,
Regardless of who actually referenced the great Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler. No, there was some things happening at this wedding that I was like, this is risky, you know? And I remember thinking, like, it's this strange phenomenon of, like, kind of like knowing, like, when you're like been doing this a long time, you get like a sense about what's going on and how it's going, probably within like 30 minutes of arriving at a wedding. Like, and you pretty well know what you're going to be able to pull off and what you're not going to be able to pull off with the couple, with the schedule. Like, it just kind of like, and I felt like at that wedding, I kind of had like a moment of like clarity as to like, it's happening right now. Like, I'm in the middle of a moment where we're taking a risk, but it doesn't seem risky. It was like in the morning during getting ready. And I felt like, oh, we're pushing it. We're pushing it on a couple areas. Um, Specifically with, I think, some of the things that the planner or the photographer wanted, or I mean, the couple wanted. They wanted, I think, a certain way of just navigating the day that maybe we weren't all necessarily delivering. And it wasn't a big deal. Like, I think everybody was fine. But and more just kind of observed, like, oh, okay, we're gonna take this risk. We're gonna like push them a little and see what we can get out of them. And it really made me think there's a lot of that happening at weddings, like calculated risk,
mhm.
right? Like, you're just kind of like, you don't know what's gonna happen, but you kind of take a risk and hopefully it works out for you. I think about that a lot at weddings, don't you?
Yeah, I do, and I think it happens a lot more when you're probably shooting yourself by yourself, solo shooting a wedding, because in an ideal world as a wedding filmmaker, you would be able to film it all, right? Like, I've always felt this way when I'm filming like a really great wedding by myself. I'm like, well, I have to make a decision because in an ideal world, I would be able to have 5, 6, 7, 10 camera angles of this one wedding. But I can't do that right now because it's all happening so fast. So I have to make a very calculated decision about what I'm going to try to do here. And maybe I can only get these 3 camera angles or 2 camera angles or, whatever it is. Um, what is going to make sure that I get the job done, but also kind of feeds my creative instincts. I think a lot of filmmakers tend to just be like, I want to get the creative shot first and foremost, and they don't do the safe shots. I find I tend to lean more towards just being super safe no matter what, because it's like I need the shot of the bride and
Well,
groom
there's probably risk
entering.
on both sides, right?
Right.
If you are like, and I think before we get into the topic at all, we're primarily focusing on like shooting the day of the wedding day, but there are risks throughout your any business. A business is just assuming risk.
Mm,
There's risk in sales and marketing and anything. So, you could probably extend this topic, but like when you're shooting a wedding, you have the risk of, you know, being boring, but getting everything.
mhm.
like, well, everything, being too safe. I got everything I needed, and I never moved my camera. I made sure to just shoot everything is
You got all the angles, but were you proud of any of it?
well, and not even that, like even maybe you didn't get all the angles, you just got all the coverage because
Sure.
you didn't want to move your
Yeah.
cameras. Like who knows? Like you have just, but you got the stuff. And then there's the other side where like you have all this beautiful shots, but you can't actually coherently say that what was the sequence of this day? How did it go? Like,
Or did you just can you put together a ceremony at it? Because like,
yes.
did you get your safety shots or
What's
did
even
you screw them
happening?
up? Like, whatever it is, I think the first step of like the equation is just knowing that everything associated with really anything has a cost, right?
Yes.
Like if you do one thing, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you time
Yes.
with your business. Maybe it's costing you money. I mean, we just last night, not to divert too much, we did an event that was for leading caterers of America. Um, and they were like, we don't really have much of a budget for it. We are like, okay, we can charge you a little bit. But being in front of the leading caterers of America is probably a good thing because it's probably going to go on everyone's social media. They're going to repost it, whatever. And we're going to be front and center. I know what my cost is in producing a film for them, like social media, whatever. You have to know what that cost is and what the reward is on the back end.
Yeah,
Like
anything you're doing, there's
the reward is always kind of maybe a little bit speculative, but
yes.
you should always know what the cost is up
Yeah,
front.
and at least know what you want the reward to be, at least in your
Yeah.
mind, like some kind of idea. If
Yep.
it all goes well, this is what happens. So
It's
uh,
always a gamble though, because
it is
that's
a
a gamble.
gamble.
You know how many chips you're putting in, and you're hoping you're able to win a big pot at the end of
So
the day.
let's change the thinking because I think it's easy for people to think about this in terms of their business. I think this is one of the few topics that people think about a lot in terms of their business, but not in terms of what they make.
Sure.
Which is like they're like, oh, I am gonna spend $7,000 on this marketing effort. Hopefully, I make X ROI. Like, oh, I'm gonna buy this camera. Hopefully, I'm gonna book this. But like, I think it's pretty like commonplace for people to try to assess what they're investing in their business,
Mhm.
even if they're not the best at it. I don't really hear a lot of people think about taking the time of a wedding day as the primary asset to create the wedding film.
Mhm.
But I really think like that's where I think it all starts, right? Is everything that goes into that wedding, maybe a little bit ahead of the wedding day if you're getting to know the couple a little bit or something like that. But in general, most of it is all happening on the wedding day. The bulk of all the time invested in the creation of a wedding film and the assets needed to make the film and edit it happening on the wedding day, right?
Mhm.
And so that's your asset. That's your like that's what you have to work with. And then you basically have to make a bunch of choices on how to best extract value out of that thing that you're trying to mine
Mhm.
for content. And that's where it becomes filled with risk. Because you're looking at this day and you're like, we all know like a room of people or a first look or a dress and you go, where do you want to stand? And the people are just like, usually I think everybody's on the same page, like, oh, this is the good light. We all like this. But every once in a while you work with someone who's like, I want to stand over there. You're like, you want to stand over there?
I'm gonna stand right behind the bride and groom as they kiss and be in everyone's shot,
Yeah.
including my second shooter shot.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like,
But
like literally, what am I supposed to do there? Like, I can't even be next to you. Like,
yes. Like, so there's a lot of ways to record anything is my point. Like, there's no just like, we all do this. Like, probably there's an 80%. So you're making a lot of choices
yeah,
on a wedding day. And I tend to find shooters are in one of two camps. They're either, I guess, one of three, which would be like a good balance. We'll say the middle, good balance of both of these two things. But people who are struggling are in either you look at their work and it's super overly safe, boring, like there's nothing cinematic or interesting to it. We'll say that that person is on a too low risk they're not willing to assume any risk with their wedding day. And then there's a person who's like, and this can manifest in like they don't have enough coverage, or maybe all their cameras don't look the same because they just don't really put any thought into anything but their highlight camera. But basically, this person is only shooting for the highlight film and what it looks cool, and they pay no attention to the other stuff. Would you agree that that's kind of like where a lot of people find themselves?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would. Um, and I think there's another comparison too, which maybe is true, maybe it's not true. It's like the documentarian type and then the editorial, like super narrative type. Um, and I wouldn't say they necessarily correlate completely, but I think they lean towards each other, don't you?
Well, yeah, and also like you're
They're
depending on
related.
if you're wanting a lot of like editorial content or what you mean by documentary,
So
you're gonna want like different.
so like the documentarian is gonna just like let things go, like let things fly, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, but they're gonna be more bothered by like certain thing. Like they're gonna be more sensitive to some risks than others,
Yes.
depending on what their emphasis is. Like if me and you often will shoot a wedding with almost no portraits because we're comfortable with it. Even though it is a risk.
Hmm.
Like we don't think it's not a risk. It
Yep.
helps to have that additional content.
Yep.
We're like, well, if we were to push between like narrative content that
Mhm.
pushes the story forward in a documentary way or kind of abstract editorial content, we would lean towards the narrative content.
Yeah.
So I think whatever risks you're willing to assume on a wedding day probably, yeah, very much depend on what you're trying to make. But all that being said, no matter what you're doing, whether it be shooting super safe or super creative or shooting super kind of letting the day happen, or you're kind of trying to drive the story forward by controlling it in some way, you're going to have different things you're willing to risk
Mhm.
in order to get what you really want. So I'll lay out some things I'm usually most comfortable to assume as a risk. I'll try not to lay them all out because we might have the same ones. But why don't we do that? Each of us. So for me, like I don't probably would not care or think that much about miking up a groom for our first look.
Mhm.
Um, if I can do it, great. It's a if I don't have time, I'll probably give that one up almost every time,
Mhm.
just because it's like, it's not like I'm willing to risk missing that in order to focus on. Um, and I think the question is why? Why don't I care about that?
Right.
One is I might not really think. Most of the time, I think nothing good happens.
Mhm.
They don't say anything that good, so I don't think it's worth the time. But the big one for me is I don't like risking the feeling that the groom has of me not bothering him at all that early in the day. I would rather him be like, wow, this is so easy. And I'm like, nothing was weird and no one did anything that made me uncomfortable at all
Mhm.
until I really needed it.
Yep.
Then ask him to do something I don't really care about. And also it just adds one more step. So I'd rather like get a couple more shots of doing like something else than
Mhm.
like I basically there's things I'd rather be doing that I don't think I would rather stop doing to put the mic on. And then there's also an experience I want the couple to really have that I think could be jeopardized. I am willing to do it when either I know there's like private vows, something like that. And so at that point
Right.
it changes.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm thinking about. I don't necessarily think I have really hard fast rules about any of it. Maybe I have like a theory,
no, but you're kind of
but
like you're like using the same like
well,
risk assessment qualifications.
sure, because like I think what I try to do on most days is just like what are the really important parts? Like for instance, this is a perfect example of risk assessment on a wedding day from this wedding we did this last weekend. I had to bring all the equipment from one part of this campus to another part. It's I'm sweating my ass off bringing these things from one place to the other. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I have to run back and grab this other bag. However, I know the photographer just came up to me and goes, the bride and groom are coming up into this room for their first reveal of this room. And just, she said, they're going to be coming. Doesn't say when. There's no time on the timeline. Just they're coming. And sometimes I would go, that's going to be the most important thing. Like the planner's going to want to see it. This is going to be a really important moment where the bride is going to have this great reaction. She's going to walk in. Oh my God. She's going to give the planner a big hug. And I go, well, either I go next door and I get what I need next door, this one last bag that I couldn't carry on the first trip, which has all our lights in it, and I'm probably going to miss this moment, or I can stay, I can capture this moment and not have my lights. What's the decision there? It really depends on the wedding. I immediately thought this bride is not going to have a good reaction to it at all because
She didn't care about
she
it.
doesn't care about it whatsoever. I know her personality. And I also know this room isn't necessarily what the planner wanted in the first place. This was a rescheduled wedding from one destination to another wedding or another destination.
Yeah, and it's not to say it was bad. It just wasn't
It's-
anybody's ideal.
This planner usually does really care about that moment, but I'm just like, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be a moment that I'm going to look back at and be like, that was a pivotal part of this day. So I decided to get the lights because I was like, I need lights in this room. I don't trust the way that this is going to be lit. And that's my decision. I went next door.
Mm-hmm.
That was my calculated risk, brought it over, had lights. I loved the way it looked. Although later in the day, the bride made her people turn off our lights and move the lights. But I was like, I got what I wanted at that point. So maybe it wasn't the best decision. But we got what we wanted out of it. And that
Well,
was my decision. So
yeah.
that's what I'm saying, where it really varies depending on the day. You have to
Well,
know
exactly.
all the factors that go
You
into
have
it.
to know. I think what's most important is like there are consistent things that you want
Mhm.
that are going to be determined based on what you particularly want to do. And so it's really hard for somebody to tell you like I'm not telling you don't mic up the groom for first look.
Yeah.
Telling you I personally don't care about it.
Right.
And so
But I also knew I had an excuse for missing it too, where I was like, had asked the people on property, like, hey, can you get me a golf cart so I can transport back and forth? They're like, yeah, absolutely, we'll have it. After the ceremony, no golf
Well,
cart.
see,
I talked to them and they're like, no, we can't get you one. I'm like, okay, well, now you're going to miss things.
so what were
because
the risks that
was-
you were potentially assuming in that situation?
that the planner's upset with me that I missed this moment, but I knew I had an alibi. I knew I had a great excuse,
Mhm.
and I knew I had a reason why I wasn't doing it.
Well,
So,
also,
if
you-
anyone is upset, which is the calculated risk, I'm like,
you
there's
probably
like a 10% chance that someone would be upset about it.
but here's the thing. If you went down the checklist and you'd say like what are the checks and like
Mm.
the first thing on the checklist is obviously does the couple care?
Right.
Right? And like I think like if you're making any kind of assessment on whether or not you should try to do something
Mhm.
on a wedding day, like a risky shot that you really want to get that either has like one shot to get it, like them walking in and it's like, I'm going to shoot them walking in through the crack of this door that looks really cool.
Mhm.
Hopefully they walk within this one like 4x6 area. And if they don't, I'm going to miss them.
Right.
Like
You're going to
That's-
shoot that shot super boring and safe.
probably
Because if you screw it up and they care, if they're 100%, if they talk to you about that one shot
and then
on
you
the
mess it up.
consultation, I want to come in and I want everyone to high five us. And then you mess it up because you're trying to do something super creative
Yes.
and avant-garde and you mess it up on the first take, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You can't just say I messed up. They'll be like, "What the heck, dude? We paid
Why
you
did you mess that up?
$15,000 to do the wedding to not mess up."
And that's
It
like
was
a
and
very
they would be like, "This is such an easy shot. You made it into something it didn't need to be."
yes, and that's a very extreme example.
Right.
But I will say, we all make like mini versions of that throughout a wedding day. Like, it'd be cool if I could shoot from over there during the portrait session. And so I'm going to run over there
Right.
and get a cool wide shot. And in the middle of it, but this is how I want everyone to be thinking is I'm giving up 7 poses to go over there and shoot this one cool pose. And I find a lot of people who struggle with having enough content for their films don't like they really need to get just a lot more content. And part of how you get more content is you just focus on like not trying to find cool shots every 5 seconds and just keep
Shots that
shooting.
take a long time to set up.
Yeah.
The risky shots usually do take a longer time to set up
Or
because you
like if someone
have to
doesn't
worry about a million different things.
if they don't move correctly in the frame. Like a good example of a shot that I don't like, and I wouldn't call it risky, but let's just say you are guaranteed taking more time than you ought to,
Mhm.
is the under the veil shot.
Mhm.
I'm not saying I have a problem with it, but it takes a little while to get right.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't look, and some couples can't do it.
Yeah.
Like some couples, like they don't have like a passionate enough kissing style. Like I don't know, like it just looks awkward and weird.
Mhm.
And every time I do it, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be like we're just washing 10 minutes down the toilet.
Especially when the photographer has the one angle that you can get and you're like kind of trying to like get in
And then
there,
they don't
and
even
it's
get
like
out of your way.
they don't get
and-
out of your way, and it's like it only looks good for photos because literally someone's holding the stupid veil next to them. It's not moving. It's just like veils don't act like that in the real world. Like it's just a posed photo really that you're getting video of.
Yeah, it's like it's not something I
I'm not a fan
enjoy.
myself.
And then I'm thinking, like, and every once in a while, I've gotten a few good shots actually on video.
Yeah.
But it's like, should I really push it and try to get something out of it? Because we spent the time anyway.
Yep.
Which I usually try to get something because I'm like, maybe they're just gonna be like, all right, we're done.
Yeah.
Immediately right after. It's like that's a risk. Like, how long do I have to, or should I like be like, no, like if I can make this take less time, like you're making those calculations
Totally.
all day. So anyway, you kind of were talking about how you made that decision
Mhm.
about like whether or not you wanted or didn't want to sorry, what was the example you gave again?
Upset the couple or upset the planner by not getting this
Yeah.
reveal shot with the bride and groom.
Yeah, you made
And
that.
by the way, they came in and they did exactly what I thought they would do.
Yes.
Like I wasn't there for it, but I was like, "How was it?" They were like, the photographers. They were like, "Eh." You know. I was like,
Okay.
good.
So
I made the right decision.
yes, and I do find like Jared and I have a lot of flaws and things that we have where we're not the most successful wedding filmmakers in the world, I'm sure. That being said, one thing I notice is that me and Jared also typically know what a couple is going to like or not like and what their vibe is and what they're going to appreciate. And I would say like as time goes on, you will kind of like some of these things that at one point you were using in your risk assessment, like will they like it? I don't know. That gets a lot easier. Like I usually am like the couple will like this.
Well, I think it's one thing that because we work with a lot of young filmmakers. I would say when they come and they work for us, they're not filmmakers at all. They're just like carry bag kids. You know, what do we call them? Our Sherpas, our bag Sherpas. Like,
Yes.
you know, they carry the bags. As they're growing into an assistant, growing into a second shooter, I think it's one of the things that we notice about them is they just have bad risk assessment,
Mhm.
right? They, well, one of the things is they don't move fast enough. They don't know that they need to be moving faster.
I don't know when
at
it's
certain
important
times.
to be urgent and when it's not.
They don't know, they can't see into the future like we can. They don't know this is how the series of events are going to unfold. But then also, they can't make good risk decisions. Like they will make either super risky decisions, like I want to do this creative thing. You're like, no, you're not qualified to make that decision.
Or you got one shot when you needed to get 10.
Yeah, yeah. Or they just aren't they aren't able to be like, well, I know this was starting, so I didn't want to leave. And you're like, yeah, but like you needed to go get the audio bag because now we don't have audio for the speeches or something stupid. Like you'd be like, you have to run and
Yeah,
get it, dude. Go get it.
just to simplify, there are two bad things that could happen.
Yeah.
They pick the worst one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's
And it was just like there's a Bible story like about tenants, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend it. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, I didn't want to make Jay angry. So
Yes.
therefore I did the super safe thing and I just stayed behind the tripod and make sure it was framed up. You're like, yeah, but your battery died. You needed to run and grab a battery.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't want to leave and make sure you walked out of the frame. That doesn't matter because your camera's now dead and you did miss a
This is
shot.
a good example, and I think I've told it before, and also I don't mind because it's something I talked to him about directly and whatever. We're shooting a wedding, and one of the things I use as a common sense test, but also it's genuinely needs
You
to
do
be
test these
is-
kids.
yes, it genuinely needs
Yeah.
to be discussed with people because
Yeah.
otherwise they won't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Is the classic. It's the first dance, but everyone, we're gonna join them on the dance floor.
Yeah.
That is like the very worst thing that can happen to a young shooter because they're something about moving tripods.
Because they don't want you to be like, why did you move it to this spot?
No, but
and
like
not that
the
spot?"
idea
Like,
of carrying it and then easily opening it
Mhm.
and easily putting it back down. It's like the whole thing of moving a tripod to them makes their brain freak.
Mhm.
And something that would have normally taken them 1 second to do when this situation happens, like jingling around. They can't. Okay. And so I told the shooter at the wedding uh, down in where were we? Harwich,
Mhm.
that I was like, listen, this thing's gonna happen. If people get too close to the dance floor and they go in front of your camera, you're gonna have to, as it's happening, notice people moving and move with them,
Mhm.
stay ahead of the line and put your tripods down. I follow the couple person in with the gimbal and I swing over because I knew he wasn't gonna get it. And I swing over to his tripods and I'm finally like, he's like, and I was finally just like, dude, we're 45 seconds into the dance. Move, get
Yeah.
out of the way.
Yeah.
And like, and he's like, it's not straight. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's not straight.
Yeah.
All that matters is that
It's recording.
it's
and
recording and
yeah.
it's on. We can straighten it in post. Here's the deal. This person is not an idiot. They're a smart person. He knows if he was tested with all the time in the world, the correct answer to the question. If something's rolling and you ruin your shot by moving it too much, or you just put it down and it's imperfect, what is a better choice? But he still made the wrong one.
Mhm.
And I think for a lot of people, risk assessment starts with running a simulation in your brain.
Mhm.
And I think this is something people think I'm pretty good on my feet. I am pretty good on my feet. But what I actually do a lot of is I run a lot of simulations in my brain of like, if this happens, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And so I think if you're like, the biggest tip I'm going to give you for helping do risk assessment when you're shooting weddings, if you're thinking, should I run across and get that shot? Like, should I do this? Should I like, like a good example where it's like probably actually risk assessment live that is legitimate is like when something changed, you set something up, you either have a shot composed, someone's going to walk into the frame, but you like know that since you set it up, some stuff changed, and when that person walks in the frame, it's not going to be correct.
Mhm.
And it's about to start, and you're like, do I have 10 seconds to move this over?
Mhm.
Like that is a type of thing that always happens. And so no matter what is causing you the issue that's giving you some kind of question, what are some things that you would maybe ask yourself when you're kind of caught in a situation, whether it be something you really want to do that's ambitious or something that might not be going well and you're faced in a situation of having to choose usually one thing over the other thing, right?
Mhm. I mean, again, it just comes back to that specific decision. I mean, it's not like I'll go one way or the other. It's like
Yeah, but what are the
I don't go
factors?
conservative or risky. It's like it's I have a 70% chance of being successful here and a 40% chance here. Like,
What would
that's the way
be
I
the,
think
what
of
would
it.
be but what would be the thing that like I'll give you one. For me, it's does the client care? That's the first question I would ask
Sure,
myself.
sure. Like a series of your
Yes.
checklist. Yeah.
Yeah, like my first one would be like if like did I discuss it with the client?
Yep.
Is
Highest
this
priority is the client. Second highest is planner. Third highest is probably photographer. Fourth highest is probably, I would put the venue down. Maybe fourth.
I would say
This is people, and then
yeah.
somewhere along the way needs to be your creative process. So I would probably put that under the client and maybe above the planner. That's where I would put it. A lot of people would put it under the planner, um, but a lot of people would put it above the planner. Yeah, so
Yeah, I would
somewhere
say I
there.
would go like does the couple need it? Does the story need it? Do I need it?
Hmm.
Like in those orders. Like if the couple needs it, I have to have it. That's going to be the like first thing is like if it's a shot that they're trying to get and I only have one chance of getting it, I'm going to shoot it safe
Hmm.
because I can't afford to fail.
Yep.
And then I would say like, okay, well, does the story need it? Like that's more of a checklist of like, do I have like the essential elements to edit this video together? I need to shoot those things first and foremost before I start getting overly cute and spend a bunch of time doing that stuff. If I have that stuff, I can make a video. If I have all the other stuff, but not that stuff, I can't make a video. So it's like, if I don't have, if I know I'm going to have either time in the future to get some cool artsy stuff or some solid, like kind of just storytelling footage, you're going to have a more freedom to play.
Hmm. Yep.
And then I think the final one is like, what am I trying to do?
All of this is it's really interesting because I'm always curious as to why certain people are cut out for filming weddings and why others aren't. And I think this is it. I think this discussion we're having, and we've never really broken it down this, far, but I think this is it. The people that have a hard time in the wedding industry filming weddings and why they want to get out as fast as possible is because this decision making process is so stressful to them. Like we know one guy, I've been filming weddings with him for over 10 years and he's back and forth in and out. And this idea of making decisions and making the right decision is stressful for him because he's like, well, I would do things a certain way. And he would also be lazy about certain things that he doesn't care about at all. That he's like, well, I don't know if you care about them. I don't want to upset you and Jason. And like, he just is so far in his head as opposed to just being like, well, I made this decision. Tell me if I'm doing it wrong and I'll make a different decision next time. Um, and then also, I think a lot of people don't really think of it this way. And they definitely don't have like almost like a post mortem of like the decisions they made in a day. Were they the right or the wrong ones? Would they make those decisions again? I would say almost 95% of the time when I'm having this conversation in my head, I'm driving home at night, I'm like, should I have done that? I would say 95% of the time, I'm like, yeah, I made the right decision. 5% of the time now, I'm like, I probably could have done that better or made a better decision here. I didn't
I mean,
anticipate this random aspect of it.
sometimes it's happening as you're going and you're like, oh crap, I have to do this. I
Yeah.
just have to decide this. And I do think it's important, like when those moments are happening where you feel like a little out of control to make note of it
Mhm.
and then try to see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like a great learning
Yeah.
opportunity when you're like, I've never really shot from the like, it is a dumb example, but I was following the bride in, and I don't know how this has not happened to me, but I can't recall this happening where was following a bride, like as she walks down the aisle, you know, during the processional, and my shadow was being cast on the bride. I don't think I've ever had that happen to me.
Oh, this weekend
Yeah.
with the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happened. And right as it happened, I was like, should I just stick to my guns? Will even anyone notice? Could I tilt my camera up and not show her feet at all? No, I want to because I want to show the dress.
Mhm.
Okay, the only move I can make is rotate to her left so that
Get
my
wide.
shadow is not my shadow's off frame.
Yep.
And that's the decision I made.
Yep.
But I remember like going like do 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 do, like going down that whole list of
Yeah.
thoughts, and then I'm like, then I got to go far enough out that they can't see me,
Mhm.
because if normally I'm like right behind them, they won't really see me.
Yep.
So it was like,
Well, this shot specifically, it was like we had these shots. You had your shot that you were getting. You had the drone shot behind you,
mhm,
right? I was in the very front, hand holding it, getting her face. And so by you being right behind her, it was like you made that decision because you're like, we have to cut to this shot.
yes,
There's no safety shot because you're in the drone. You're
uh-huh,
in my shot.
yes,
You're in your own shadow shot. So when you did that, you're like, oh shoot, you need to like make that decision quick and pull
quickly,
away because you have cutaways. You
yes,
have your drone shot that's super wide and it looks great. I'm on them from the very front, but it's like if you stayed and you kept on
or if
trying
you
to
like
crank it out and like
slowly migrate over there, no, you got to just
yeah,
go.
you ruin everyone's
So it's like your
thing. Yeah.
cutaway, you wouldn't want to be in your cutaway very long. So if
It was funny because I was on my camera and I was like, Jake, get out of the way. Get out of the way. And I can see you like being like, ooh, you're like doing this bob and weave, and then you just like hit the eject button and left. I was like, oh thank God. Now I can get to, my
But
shot.
I was thinking about his shot, and I was
Yeah.
thinking like, shoot, this is, and it sucked because I was like, this isn't a good shot.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like, I guess just keep going.
Yep.
But like, it's not a shot I like. It's not a shot I'm proud of.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll use it.
Hmm.
But I'm like, maybe we won't. It doesn't like have the right look
Mhm.
anymore. It looks different. And it's just like, but I made the assessment because I'm like, I don't want to be a giant shadow of me
Yeah.
in the frame. That was most important to me.
Hmm.
That was the thing that was like, it was not acceptable to me. I don't know.
Mhm. Yep.
So it's like, point being, you're in those moments all the time when you're shooting a wedding, whether it be something more like ahead of time where you make a kind of decision like, oh, the grooms, they s- they're only going to be there for 15 minutes, and do I run over there and shoot the groom or stay with the couple,
Mhm.
the bride, and shoot a little more of this and have a little more time to get to ceremony?
Mhm.
Those kind of decisions you're making ahead of time,
Yeah.
that affects your day. Or in the middle of the day, you're making decisions about like something happening while you're shooting, like your shadow or a person standing there, just weird things, and like, do I pivot? But then I think the other ones are just, I think in the portraiture, in what you direct and how you treat your couple, like, I think one of the things I don't mind saying about that wedding is like, I personally felt like the photographer was asking the couple to do things that they were not comfortable doing.
Mhm.
And it's not my business. Like if the photographer is like committed to a certain style, like, and if the couple maybe they loved it, I didn't hear them complain, you know. But it's just one of those things where I was like, oh wow, okay. Like I don't know that I would have taken that risk.
Mhm.
Like I don't like taking that like that's me. I don't take There's risks I take. I don't like taking the risk of pushing couples to do things that they don't want to do.
Mhm.
I'm particularly sensitive to that.
Mhm. Or decisions and things that they can't opt out of. Like you will push people to be like, "Hey, do you want to go get sunset photos? I think you should."
Yes.
And if they're like 20% like want to, 80% probably not, you can maybe convince them and not feel bad about it because they can just say no. But if they're together and you're like, "Pick up the bride," they're not going to be like, "No."
Or
Like
like if a couple says,
you're at a bad place if they're like, "I'm not doing that."
if
You're
a
like,
couple's
"Ugh."
like, we're not really into this that much,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be like, just walk, guys, just interact normally,
totally.
rather than like, can you just like, like bend your arm a little, like kind of getting overly posy,
Yeah.
and kind of like pushing someone. That's just like me personally.
Mhm.
You might really think like I get a lot out of couples pushing them, but it's like, it's a risk. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like you're taking a risk of that couple being like that. I didn't like that. I don't think I look natural in those photos. I was making a note of it when you were telling me to do that stuff I didn't like. I told you I didn't want you to do that, but I didn't want to have that debate in front of people. Now I hate all your photos.
Mhm. I would also, bring up kind of another aspect of this whole decision making process, because I think a lot of people are like not realizing the cost of making certain decisions, either with the couple. I would say oftentimes it's with planners. They don't know the risk that they're asking. Like, by I can't tell you how many weddings I've been at where we're doing the portraits and the planner's like, they have to get back here. And then the photographer's like, meh, we'll get there when we get there. I have to create my art. That to me is like not even a calculated risk. That's just making a decision that might not be in your best interest at the end of the day. Um, that I'll always be like, if the planner's like, get back here, I'm like, yes, ma'am, right away, ma'am. Like, we, you know, maybe get another shot as we're going back or whatever. But I'm always going to be like,
No, I don't have a
the
problem with
production
somebody
has to
like,
go on.
yeah,
Like,
if somebody said like, can we just finish this pose or whatever?
yeah.
But like,
But I can't tell you how many photographers are like, we'll get there when we get there. I'm going to take another 10,
I
15
feel like
minutes.
that's like an old school thing. I haven't seen that in a while.
Oh,
It used to be a thing I saw all the time.
or like they just pretend like they weren't asked to do it or something. Like, there's a reason why planners go to these photo shoots now, I think, to just be like, hey, we got to go. I always think it's funny when they say that to me. I'm like, I'm not in charge. I'm not
What do you
directing
think
them.
is in
What
charge
do
of
you-
it?
Yeah, like, okay, go tell the
I
photographer.
mean, that's
They're
the whole
ones
thing is like
directing.
everybody thinks that we're on the same team, which is why you're right to,
Yeah,
I think, somewhat react to the conduct of your creative partners on a wedding day. Cause
yeah,
it's like, I don't think the couple or everybody, maybe the couple does,
yeah.
but I don't think everybody there. And that kind of is like the other risk I was going to bring up is like, you're taking a risk just by going to a wedding.
Hmm.
Just by showing up is a giant risk that you're taking. Like, obviously, there's liability.
Hmm.
Like, you can hurt someone and get sued, so make sure. And I would say people are, you know, pretty comfortable assuming a lot of really bad risks when it comes to that part of their business. But then, you know, we'll make a big deal about getting some really crazy creative shot.
What do you think about the risk of bringing on people that to work with you as like a second shooter, assistant, whatever, who you haven't worked with before?
Yeah, it's a risk. I mean, it is a risk. I'm very pro risk, by the way. Like, just so everyone knows, like, this is not the way I actually think is assess, evaluate risk. Your choices of risks are actually your choices of like, where can I pick up rewards?
Mhm.
So risks are like the path to reward. Like, it's not risk versus reward, it's risk reward because
Right.
of risk.
Well, the reason why I ask you about that specifically is because I think a lot of filmmakers look at it and go, "Oh, I don't want to bring on a second shooter, or I don't want to bring on an assistant because I'm worried that they'll be more dead weight
Yes,
than they
exactly.
will be of value to me."
Hmm.
You know, do you think that's something that obviously it's not something that we do?
But it's a
Like,
huge risk.
we always
And,
bring on
like
new
what I'm
people.
saying though is like you're doing that all the time anyway,
Mhm.
which is like all you're ever doing is saying like, what is the risks I'm willing to assume? But I think what people don't always do a good job with is actually running the numbers in terms of evaluating the value of the reward that
Right.
they're pursuing. And so like a second shooter, I don't know what it is. I think things that are hard work, it's easier to discount than things that are not hard work.
Yeah.
And so it's very like having second shooters is actually a ton of hard work. And I think people rightfully kind of assess like, if I go down this path of having like more shooters and take the risk on of working with these people and they screw me, like it's going to be uncomfortable for me. I'm going to have conflict. I'm going to have to help someone. I'm going to have to train people. I don't want to do that. I just want to make money. Have this cool logo I made, and I made 7 good films. I just want to make money on this style of filmmaking, and so, but I don't want to deal with anyone else on it.
Mhm.
Thank you. And it's like the no risk, no reward.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
at some point you just have to take that risk.
I think a lot of people see risk and they don't go, I don't want more risk. And they go, yeah, that's a reward, but I don't want to take on the risk. But also, they don't really realize that risk can be mitigated, right? Like, yeah, take on the risk of bringing on another person. How do you mitigate bringing on a new person? You communicate with them. You
Well,
tell them what you want.
well, and
You
also
make sure that
create
they
opportunities.
know the whole timeline. You go through all these things of like, hey, you're a new person. I'm going to help you be a better second shooter. And like, there are things that you can do to really lower that
Well, and
amount of risk.
also I
That's
think
on you. And I think a lot of people don't take those steps.
you also need to you need to migrate yourself slowly into risk, not jump into the most
Yeah,
possible
totally.
risk.
Totally.
So it's like one of the things I try to do when I shoot is even if I'm not treating it like a seamless shot, when I move from room to room, I will try to go, how quickly can I adjust my white balance and exposure?
Mhm.
Because there are times where I'm like, I'll walk from, if I'm doing a gimbal push, I'll be like, okay, I'm having to go from here to here. I'm gonna actually slowly adjust my exposure as I shoot. Risky, not always a thing you have to do. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying it's something I will do because it's something it's just fun for me
Mhm.
to try to add more challenge to the job. I think like when I think about risk, I'm like those are actually risks you're taking all day
Mhm.
when you're shooting a wedding. These little like, and so like how prepared do you want to be?
Mhm. I
Is really
think
what it comes down to. Is like if you don't know what you're actually risking.
Mhm.
Like, because I
Well,
know, like, if I like am walking in and my exposure's off, the consequences are very low.
this is a big part of risk too is anticipation.
Yes.
Like, you have to know and anticipate what's going to happen in order to make the right choice
Yeah. What is
on a risk up
like,
front.
what's like, is it worth forcing myself to do it perfectly?
Yeah.
Is it worth losing 5 shots? Is
Mhm.
it worth potentially upsetting the couple?
Mhm.
Like,
We
you,
we we did a thing last night, that event that we did, and we were like, I don't know what they're gonna do here with the lighting, right? Like we exposed for one lighting scenario with a totally different color balance, like more neutral color balance, which we were shooting all the details with. But then for dinner, they were gonna lower it down to like
we
1%
knew they were
of the
going to
full,
brighten it, but we didn't know what.
and they were gonna turn it super red, pink, orange, dark. So it was gonna be a totally different exposure, light value, color temperature. And so what we did to mitigate that and anticipate was we had our white balance settings on both. Like on my camera, I was like, I know I'm gonna have this and this. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I'm like, when it does, I just want to go click over to the right white balance, and I'll just stop down and we'll figure that out. And that way we could just be like, hey, we're in, this profile. When they click over, we're in this profile. Whenever it happens, we're all on the same page. We knew it was going to happen at some point. But that's a big part of anticipation. It's just like you have to know what people's nature are, and that just comes with experience.
Yes.
I think these decisions do become a lot easier when you have way more experience. It does, if you're
That
just
was like my
beginning,
entire rant is
yeah.
all of this is just like tons of risk. Every wedding, like you are taking a risk on taking the job. You could get sued. You could get injured and then be liable. You could all these things. You're just taking the job. You get there. You're making choices about where to stand and what to wear and like you're making all these risks. Then of course you're putting yourself out there. Like it's your intellectual property. You're trying to make something for someone and hoping they like it.
Mhm.
You know, all you've ever done is take risk after risk after risk. And so I'm very pro risk. Like I think it's great. I think risk is a good like sign of what will be fun for you. Like if it feels risky, you'll probably be more likely to do it well than if it feels boring to you. Like that maybe that's just me, but I kind of tend to think most people are activated by challenges and activated by risk. And so like looking for risk is actually really important the more developed you are. Is like looking for things that feel edgy and feel like you'd be pushing the boundaries a little.
I think it's a big part of developing your talent too.
Yes.
Like doing things under pressure.
Hmm.
That's a big part of like developing a skill.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm very pro risk. That the last thing I'd want people to think is like we're telling people like, here's a bunch of risks. It's really risky. Don't do it.
Right.
What we're saying is like you can't eliminate risk. You're gonna fail a lot of the time. Like you
How much do you want to fail?
yes, yes. And also like just knowing in your brain like having a good idea of like what can't be failed on is probably the best I can say. There's probably a few things that you just have to be you don't have confidence in to that you're going to be able to do it without making it not risky. And usually these are important shots. They could be relational things with the wedding day, but like I think you're just making a list of like these are the things that are like I'm gonna go for it with that I'm gonna like I have backup coverage and so I can be a little risky. Trying to give yourself those situations as
Mhm.
much as possible, like where you have the ability to try something risky on important moments because that's what's gonna put you on the map. I think in your filmmaking is like wow, like a new perspective on something. Creating like coverage and safety so that you can be risky
Yeah, that's a
is
good point.
is what I actually would tell people is like if you have gotten to the point where everything's really safe, you know like how to make it fresh.
Well, I think that's a great point because I think one thing that you can do to increase, your skill, but I don't know about skill, but the quality
Quality, just better.
of making a better film is just by having more cameras. The
Mhm.
cost isn't necessarily risk in that point. The cost is money.
Yep.
And I love taking those kind of risks. Like I'm gonna buy something to make something that's actually going to be better. That's when like the gear thing, it's like, oh, can you make a better wedding film with that camera versus this camera? I'm like, I don't know. It's so subjective. Like, yes, in that case you can because I have this extra
Well,
angle
it's definitely
to
not
get this one
subjective.
shot that I'm gonna use in an Instagram preview that is gonna be a really important part.
It's not subjective to say more cameras help you make a better film.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like it's
Like
actually a really helpful thing, like with
and
wedding
it
filming for
mitigates
sure.
risk and that's like
Mhm.
that's part of it is like giving yourself more opportunities to fail is like the biggest tip I would give you is like ass-
And a
assume
lot of times those ones fail, by the way. We're
yeah.
like, we're gonna take a risk with this camera. We're just gonna put it in and then someone stands right in front of it, and you're like, well, that didn't work. But what's the risk? Like they're not gonna be mad at you. No one knows that it even existed. It's just in your head. You're like, next time I'll put it in a different place.
What I would say the biggest thing for me is I try to just not have only one area of where like I and no gotta have it
Yeah.
shots to the best of my ability is like I want it to be like multiple angles on anything that important
Yep.
if and that's not always possible
Yep.
but it's wherever possible. I think that is pretty much what I like to do for risk mitigation is like try something edgy but have multiple angles.
Mhm. Yep.
And and I would say this, if you're always having like all these edgy like high buy-in shots, by that I mean like the couple's like going across a valley so you can shoot across the other side of the valley and it's like 30 minutes to get one shot. That's high buy-in. If you are in a situation where that's the type of clients you hire and you have those kind of shoots a lot and they show up and that's what they're there to do, I would not call that high risk
Mhm.
because they're there to do that.
Yeah.
Like I would say like high risk is like what am I giving up potentially to get X? And probably if you're not sure, go with the safer. That's my best. If you're not sure, like go with the safer, but then also challenge your assessment. Like think of a way to actually like look at that shot, pay attention, remember that moment, actually process in your brain. And if at all possible, try to find some area to make it risky. Like I think that's really important. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I would definitely lean that way throughout the day. But yeah, I think but kind of circling back to like if this is like the part that activates your stress response, it's like making these decisions. I do think when you're driving home, have these conversations in your head, replay them in your mind. If you're like, yeah, I just feel overwhelmed by the whole thing because I feel like I made a million bad decisions. I would say analyzing those decisions is a critical part of growing. And the more you're doing that, you're going to make better choices over the long haul, and you're going to just, it's going to become easier for
Mhm.
you. So, like, if you're a beginner and you're like, that was crazy, like, we'll bring on new shooters all the time. And the first thing they say to us was like, that was an insane day. Like, the way that you were able to make decisions and anticipate was crazy to me because I was like, literally didn't even know what I was looking at, what you were even talking about half the day. And it's like, yeah, that's a wedding day to most people. And I don't care if you're working at $1 million event or the event at the country club or the barn or whatever it is. Things fly by, they go fast.
They're more similar than they are dissimilar.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
And
And
you have a lot of the same problems, just at bigger scale, maybe.
you're trying to you're probably in one of two stages in your wedding career. You're either working off a big library of other experiences that you fall back on. And I think it's important to just refresh those in my brain. Like, what's my fallback if I don't know what to do? If I'm not sure, if I'm like, I'm gonna, like, I have certain things I'm just, well, if I don't know what to do, I'm gonna do this. Like, if I don't know what to do on a first look, I'm just gonna shoot the couple profile because then I'm gonna see both their faces and it might not be pretty. And I don't care what's in the background. I'm just gonna shoot it because I know I got to see their faces and it's not the prettiest, but I got to see, like, you know what I mean? It's a dumb example, but it's like I have these types of things in my brain of like default things I do if I'm not sure what to do.
Yes.
And I would say, think about that. Go with a list of that kind of stuff in your brain of like, what am I like? I know for me, like, I'm going to shoot squat down in the front row, right up at the bride's face if I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
I'm just going to always shoot. That's the shot I'm going to shoot when the bride walks down the aisle. I'm not going to try to do anything really creative, really interesting. And if I can't have that shot, I'm not going to shoot anything else.
Mhm.
Like, that's going to be my most important shot. Now, my second might shoot it for me because it's not that hard.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, just go up there and please just shoot the bride's face. You would think it's not that hard.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not risky in that way that it's like challenging to get. But it's like, I think like starting there with whatever experience you have, like, what are your defaults? And then from there, when you kind of have that in your brain, I think instead of viewing risk as like something to avoid on a wedding day,
Mhm.
going like, I know my like fallbacks, and so that's not that risky for me. I know what I'm gonna do 90% of the time. I'm gonna fall back on looking for the other opportunities. Where can I have a little fun with this wedding day? And it's gonna change from day to day. It's gonna change situation to situation. Or maybe you're just like, hey, I'm just gonna keep working on this skill for the next. It could just be arbitrary, like stuff you decide. But it's like, I think planning your risk, throwing your risk in, embracing it is really the way to make great wedding films and not shying away from it.
Mhm. Yeah. No, totally. Totally. And just, yeah, it's going to happen no matter what. It's just a matter of how you react to it. And that's what's going to make you a better wedding filmmaker.
Yeah.
So,
And just evaluating that and
Yep.
actually like making a list in your brain of where the challenges come up and where where you feel like you tried something and failed. And I also think like if you did fail, sometimes it's important to it's very important to do a post-mortem, like you said, of failure. And I think it's important not necessarily when you fail to just be like, I'm not going to do that again, because it might actually be that you should do it again, but like do it better.
Mhm.
But also it might be that you shouldn't do it ever again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think a lot of wedding filmmakers too are out there are like, my stuff is feeling stale. Like, this is an important conversation to have where it's like, maybe I should be taking more risk.
probably, right?
And yeah, like this is an important discussion to have in your mind of like, where can I take risk and for little amount of, fallout.
Yeah.
Of
What
it.
feels scary to me
Yeah.
to do, maybe that's what you should do.
Hmm. Try something different. You should always be trying something new. Like, hey, I'm going to use this new piece of gear that's exciting to me. I mean, that's what's kept it fresh for us for 15 years is like, we're going to inch towards something. And if it works for me on this and I really like it, I'm going to integrate it into our whole system with the other teams and like, make it bigger. That's exciting to me. And then most of the time it's this sucks. We're never gonna do this again.
Yeah, or
And that's
like
the failure, but
it
only I
wasn't
know about it.
wasn't worth the risk.
Yep.
It wasn't worth the risk.
Wasn't
And
worth the time that it took to put in. Like I couldn't integrate it more broadly. Maybe I'm just having fun with it. I remember some things we got like the fractals. Was playing around with those, and
they're
I still
fun.
use
Yeah,
those every
yeah,
once in
they're
a while.
fun.
But I was like, more broadly, nah, I'm not gonna add it to the kit. It just as another thing to get lost. It's gonna cost us a lot of money to like buy a bunch of these. It just wasn't worth it. But it's nice to have one set in the kit. Why not?
Well, it's
Um,
just like whatever you're
that's a
dealing
small
with
risk.
as a creator, like you're kind of like factoring this into a big pile of like who you are and what you make. And there are little things and there are big things, obviously, like big risks and little risks,
Mhm.
like using a fractal or not.
What about using a red Komodo?
Sure.
I would say that's way more risk than what's
Well,
actually
that's the
worth.
thing about it is like viewing that stuff as risk versus reward too. It's
Yeah.
like if I buy a $27,000 camera, would I have gotten the same gigs?
Yes, you would have. I promise you, you would have. You're not getting any
Probably.
other gigs because you have a
I
red
mean, there's
camera.
sure there's someone, but like
But also, anytime someone's using a red camera, I'm like, everyone's stuff is better who's using a Sony. Or
red cameras
whatever
are not
camera.
good for weddings, guys.
No.
It's just I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you think
That's the thing.
no, it's not what we do. And the reason we don't do it is because they're giant, they're too heavy, they're bad in low light. They're not the right tool. They're awesome. Trust us. We understand. We know. We get it. It's not that we don't get it and you get it. And that's why it's literally not the right tool. I'm pleading with you to believe me that it's not the right tool to shoot weddings.
They won't believe you,
I know.
which is fine. Have at it.
It's just I don't know. At least believe that we sincerely believe it's not the right tool.
Yes, yes. And it's a risk we decided not to make.
Yes.
but-
So that being said, embrace your risk, guys. Go do something fun. And you could even embrace a risk of hiring someone over at Second Society for your next wedding film. If you need a second shooter, you want to be a second shooter, go to secondsociety.io and you can get one of those and tell them Wedding Film School sent you.
Yep.
And that'll be awesome. And if other than that, goodbye.
Yeah, I would say with Second Society, you're taking less of a risk as if you were to find someone out in the wild
That's true.
of
Yeah.
Facebook or wherever people are picking up.
And you
second shooters.
mitigate risk where you can.
Yep, that's
Take
it.
smart risks.
That's it. So lots of places you guys can find us if you're looking to learn more about Wedding Film School. We have 3 different YouTube channels: Wedding Film School, The Wedding Film School Show, and Wedding Film 101. All for different purposes. You should go explore them and find which YouTube channel is right for you. Maybe all 3 of them. Our Facebook group, Wedding Film School, where you can find kind of a more broader community, ask questions, be educated, get yourself educated. And then also over on Instagram, where you can find clips like this, episodes we've done in the past. The Wedding Film School Show is that Instagram handle. As well as we're doing wedding filmmaker spotlights. So if you want to learn who you should be following, finding inspiration, whatnot, that's a great place to do that as well. So have a great week, guys. Shoot some great weddings this weekend. Become a better creative. And we'll see you next week on the Wedding Film School Show.